Y'all, welcome back to Kentucky Fried Wargaming, where two guys who aren't qualified to talk about anything decide to talk about a game with hard math and chance. I'm Joe.
And I'm John.
And here on the channel, we are coming to you with new faction focuses designed and tailored for 10th edition, largely for people who are maybe returning to the game or who are just starting new to help you maybe try to pick a faction that works for you. There's a lot of information to dive into, so we're going to try to make these things as easy and accessible as humanly possible. No 1 hour faction focus talking about the mechanics. And we got to start with the poster boys, John. I mean, they're on the box. They're in the stores. You've seen life size.
They're on every box, actually.
Yes, every box. There is rarely a box without them. The Space Marines. I mean, these are the people you think of when you think of Warhammer 40,000.
Right.
I mean,
We've seen the trailer for Space Marine 2. It's Space Marines.
Yes. And if you have found our video to maybe play 40K, you probably saw Space Marine first. So who are they? I mean, and I think that's the first thing we have to talk about, is like the lore pitch, right? Because it matters. For me, certainly, but for a lot of people. And the Space Marines in the setting are humans who were taken as young boys, usually around the age of puberty, and were ripped from their families, and then through a series of surgeries and implants and genetic modifications, many of them pass away and die during the process, but those that survive become genetically modified superhumans, who they then shove in armor.
And then they go through rituals depending on what chapter they're in to help get them used to the chapter that they're going to be joining and build camaraderie with that group. And then they go out into the galaxy and kill all sorts of things and do all sorts of monstrous actions.
Yes, they're nightmarish, truly.
Yes.
And the chapters is where you're probably going to get into really customizing your own faction. There are a lot of chapters out there in the setting, so you'll go wild, but that's the basics. All of them are going to be genetic modified super soldiers, taken when they were young, shoved into armor, and now they are experts at war and death.
Yes. And you can make them any personality you want. If you want them to be noble and standing up for the little people, those exist. If you want them to be absolutely monstrous that will do anything to get a victory, they can do that.
There's a lot of those.
Very wide.
So, I mean, lore-wise, they're kind of a beautiful blank canvas for you to paint what you want. And the idea that they are these pseudo-immortal soldiers and have seen hundreds or maybe over 1,000 years of battlefields does play out on the tabletop. So their army, well, I guess in 40K, I'll say quickly that in the initial releases, each army has core army rules that all of the players get. And for the Adeptus Astartes or the Space Marines, they get a rule called Oath of Moment. And Oath of Moment has, a little bit of wording to it, but what it really means for y'all playing the game is you get to look at something on the battlefield at the start of your turn and declare that must die. And you target it, it goes off. Someone calls the shot, and now every one of your genetically modified super killers gets to re-roll their wounds against that thing. And is it also hits? Yes.
I believe it's also hits.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they get
you get to
re-roll everything. Try to kill it.
Yeah, you just re-roll everything and just kind of throw everything you have into the one thing that's your biggest target priority and take it out. And what makes it even easier to accomplish that is the detachment rule in the index, which is directly after, which is doctrines, right? So at the beginning in the command phase, you pick which doctrine you would like to use. They're going to be listed in this video. And what you get to do is, do you want melee to be able to move faster and get to where the head of the snake is and cut it off? Okay, well then pick one of that one. Do you need heavy weapons to reposition so they can get a shot in? Cool, pick that one. Do you need your just massive normal infantry to get up to do rapid fire? Okay, pick that one. There's a lot of words to it, But once you read it and play with it a couple times, it'll make a lot more sense. And it's very useful in tandem with Oath of Moment. So you kind of like pick your target, and then you pick what doctrine you're going to use, converge on a unit, take it down.
Yep. The big key for the doctrines, though, is you can only use each one once a game. So you got to, over time, you will learn, when you need to pop it versus when you maybe want to let it go. And that's just going to come with it. But generally speaking, these speak to the thing that I would argue Space Marines are best at, and that is flexibility and accomplishing any goal you kind of set for them. And they're real good at killing that thing you picked.
Yeah, like they'll probably do at least that, if not more.
Yep. And I think our War Scroll picks, data sheet picks, speak to that. We, instead of going through all of the data sheets that the faction has, because there's a lot of them.
There's 250 pages, all right? There's a lot of data sheets.
There's too many. You don't want to hear us talk about them. We are instead going to pick one apiece that we think are representative of the faction as a whole. And John, what are you going with?
So my pick for Space Marines is Intercessor Squad, right? It's your basic Primaris tactical troop unit.
Yes.
They have decent toughness. They've got an average of a 4, which is like average across the game. They've got an average save of 3, which makes them pretty tough against most things.
Especially if you can get them into cover. Whew.
Right. They got 2 wounds, which is great. And they have an objective control of 2, which comes in really handy because they get the objective secured rule, which allows them to go up to an objective, get that objective, and then move off of it, and you're still holding that objective, even when you leave it, making your opponent have to dedicate to coming and taking it from you. So they can be that flexible unit that needs to go up, get the objective, move off, do something. Maybe charge, which they're okay at. Maybe shoot, which they're okay at. You can customize them a little bit to fit what you want for your chapter. But really, they're just dudes with bolt guns that can punch okay. But you're going to need them in every list.
Yeah, they're the heart of my list. Every list.
Right. Like, they take more fire than just a squad of guardsmen can take to kill. They hold objectives well. And they move across the table and take up space well. They're very good core for any Space Marine list whatsoever. Easily the thing I'll probably see in almost every list for Space Marines.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time I left home without them when playing My Blood Angels. They're never terrible. And especially in an edition where to hold an objective, normally you have to sit there, which can put you out of the running. It's pretty great. But John, while you have picked a beautiful, tactical, idyllic unit, yes, it's very sensible of you. And I acknowledge I should probably pick like a captain of some flavor. No. I love big stompy robots that are metal and have guns and look like they will win a Hell in a Cell match. And that means I'm coming in here with the Redemptor Dreadnought.
Yes.
Because I do arguably think it illustrates our point, but it's also a giant stompy robot. So the Redemptor Dreadnought is a Space Marine who is almost dead and almost got to have peace. And they said, "No, brother, you must live." And then they took his mangled corpse with him barely alive, and then they shoved him in a coffin for, in this little claustrophobic space, and fused his nerves to a big robot, and now he's in pain, but he pilots a robot now. So, win-win. And this big robot hurts. It hurts so bad. It's got a rock solid save. It's a 2-up save. It's like the high save of the game that we have seen. He is toughness 10, so he is more than doubling your interceptor toughness. He moves 8 inches, which is ridiculous for this M1 Abrams with a fist. And again, he has a fist that is a power fist to crush stuff like tin cans. You can change what sort of, he's got a big arm gun also, so you can mulch infantry or a big plasma gun to shoot armor. And what I really think also helps is he just -1s to all damage. That's his rule, is that he has duty eternal and everything that shoots him -1 damage.
Yeah, so he's gonna attract a lot of fire or melee threat, and he's going to make that less efficient against him, making him really good to like stay in the line in the middle and just kind of.
Yeah, he just won't go down. It's got to be tough. And he's got an objective control of 4. So he hits fairly hard.
Yeah.
Right? He's very tough. Very, very tough, which is also good. And an objective control of 4 is pretty impressive. That can sneak objectives from the enemy. So, and he's pretty fast, so he can get up in there and do it. So he's going to deal out some damage, he's going to take a punch, and he's probably going to get you an objective. And I think that sort of flexibility is really indicative of the Space Marines ethos. And also, it's a giant coffin robot. And
yeah, like we cannot forget about the cool factor. Like, okay, if you're playing Warhammer 40k, you're playing it to a degree because you like really, really objectively stupid things.
Yes. Yep. Is it? It doesn't make any sense. No, absolutely not. But it's cool as could be.
Exactly.
And I love it. I love it so much. And I mean, I think while that does illustrate Space Marines, we want to leave y'all with a piece of advice for every faction we're gonna do. Because I feel like sometimes you get lost in the weeds, and like the practical help goes out the window. And I think the thing I would caution you against, and John and I have both made this mistake in the past, is oftentimes you are going to play a Space Marine faction that is going to incentivize you to take a certain type of unit. It might incentivize you to take Flamers. It might incentivize you to take Meltas. It might incentivize you to go heavily into melee. What I would caution you is not to go hyper-specific too deeply. You know, one of the strengths of this force is its flexibility. So lean into that. Certainly take the thing that you're incentivized to take. Mm-hmm. Maybe even take quite a bit of it. But do not solely take that thing, or you might have some problems.
Yeah, you don't want to devote entirely to that as your only tactic and then leave a bunch of your rules on the table.
Yes,
like
especially in this edition
options.
Where you have to kind of counterpick against stuff. You know, if you went all melee and you got a bunch of chainswords and someone's bringing a tank, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble because you didn't bring a sort of range tank shooty dude.
Yep. Just don't forget that the best thing about Space Marines is that they are jack of all trade across all the chapters. Like some of them just have more of like a knife on the Swiss Army knife, but they still have like the little wedge and like the corkscrew.
Yeah, don't leave your corkscrew at home. That's the piece of advice.
Yeah, keep your corkscrew on you. Stay strapped.
So that's, for us, that's the gist of Space Marines. And I hope it's helpful for you. We are going to be doing more of these faction focuses. So if maybe this faction doesn't 100% sell you, there will be others. And we'll be working on them soon. And if you have any questions, comments, you want us to follow up on stuff, socials are down below. Feel free to reach out. For now, that's been all of our thoughts. Bonafide, Kentucky Fried. We'll see you all in the next one.